surfing in your face next.
Today we're going to be talking about a quaint little surfing game by the name of Surfing H3O, or as the Nihonjin call it, Surferoid Densetsu no Surfer. Surfing H3O is a weird name, right? I mean, H3O is like some chemistry shit, but it doesn't really have anything to do with surfing as far as I understand. I found this on-demand only TV series named H3O from Heavy Water magazine that seemed to be watched pretty heavily in California in the 90s.
Aloha, welcome to our first episode of the new season of H3O Heavy Water Magazine.
And as usual, we've got the hottest surfing, bodyboarding, and snowboarding action on the planet.
It featured a surf legend by the name of Mark Fu, so I could totally see them jacking the name for the localization. Anyway, that's just my little headcanon. Getting into the game, ooh, hey, Rockstar. Wait, there's actually a lot of names on this. So Opus Corp is the company that actually made the game. Surfing H3O seemed to be a shift of focus into making sports games for Opus, however their most important contribution to gaming is probably Princess Quest, Mahjong Sword. And Ikitosen, Shining Dragon. There's just something about this game. Both ASCII Corp and Enterbrain Incorporated are credited here as well. Enterbrain is actually a subsidiary of ASCII Corp and had credited titles such as International Business Producer and International Business Supervisor. This leads me to believe that Enterbrain and by extension ASCII were working as a sort of liaison between Opus and Rockstar for the purposes of localization, especially since they only have a combined 4 credited members on the game. Loading into the game, you'll get a little FMV. It's a surfing montage backed by energetic punk music. I actually really dig extreme sport montages like this, so it's definitely getting me pumped to get in and hit some waves. However, I wanted to bring up that this FMV is actually a giant change from the opener in the Japanese version of the game. The Japanese opening movie starts with an asteroid flying toward Earth. It hits the moon and a chunk of that moon slams into the Earth. Insane, right? No, the only thing that's insane are the sick waves created by the asteroid. Because of this meteor, Earth becomes a huge intergalactic surfing hotspot and tons of aliens come to the planet to hit these high tides. Why didn't this make it into the game? Well, it had pre-rendered Japanese text in it. Any Japanese in your American localization was a big no-no for Sony for a long time. This meant that anything that can't be changed in-engine would end up completely cut or at the very least heavily cut down. The Japanese text is on top of the meteor strike scene, so they couldn't really chop it up to keep the premise. They probably had to scrap the whole cutscene. It doesn't really add too much value to the game, but it looks pretty cool and would have been a welcome addition to my playing experience. Once you get into the menu, you'll see it's pretty bare bones. Tournament mode is the meat of the game, and the potatoes and the gravy and the drink. Alright, look, it's pretty much the whole game. You'll choose your surfer and board and be on your way. You get a little tutorial that runs the first time you play. This is actually the only time the tutorial runs. They definitely could have included this somewhere else in the menu, because the text is so far away from the visualization of the controller that I missed some of the information, flitting my eyes back and forth between them. This could also be remedied by having the player press the cross button to continue through each block of text. Surfing H3O's controls are serviceable, nothing more, nothing less. It kinda sucks that they didn't really take advantage of the controller. The game uses the L1, L2, R1, R2, L3, and L3 buttons, as well as the left stick. That's 6 buttons and a stick. You know what else uses 6 buttons and a stick? Arcade controls. I literally feel like I'm at Dave & Buster's when I play this shit. You have multiple levels that you'll progress through. On each level, your goal will be to collect as many points as possible. There are multiple ways to do this, collecting little buoys that give you points, doing tricks on a wave, and riding inside the tunnel of the wave. You're also granted a specific amount of points for completing the level without bailing out too many times. If you reach the target amount of points, you'll be able to continue on to the next stage. That being said, the bare bones controls and general lack of stuff to do makes every playthrough feel samey, and that's fine on an arcade game, but like, not really for a console game. It's always just, go collect buoy, do trick on wave, and ride to the finish line. There's no reason to mix it up. The only difference between levels is the height of the wave, the distance of the map, and the placement of the buoys. I mean, I don't even know how they could fix this, because surfing is pretty linear. I mean, you ride the wave, but it doesn't really make for thrilling gameplay. After you beat all the stages in the tournament, you'll unlock some new characters and a new level of difficulty. Oh, and you'll get a picture of your character congratulating you. Woo! This new difficulty will allow you to go through the same stages again, but with a higher point target. It'll eventually get to the point where you need to mix up all the different ways to gain points in order to reach these targets. You'll pretty much want to collect every buoy you can, and ride tunnels and do tricks in between buoy sections. The difficulty selector just doesn't work. After you've beaten a difficulty, you can't ever go back. If you try to select normal mode after you've moved on to master mode, it just keeps you in master mode. This means that you can't go back and try to beat your stage scores after you complete the tournament mode on that difficulty. This is especially strange because the leaderboard tracks your stage scores by difficulty, so it was obviously intended to work. It just doesn't. You know what using up and down on the left stick to move my character left and right really makes me think? Why can't I get a girlfriend? Why didn't they have left and right control whether or not your character moves left or right? It just feels like it would translate better. I mean, up and down would be fine if they didn't make you do left and right facing waves. On the left facing wave, the up button makes you go towards the wave, but on the right facing wave, up makes you go away from the wave. I found out that Surfing H3O came with this little surfboard peripheral that clipped to the top of your sticks, and it all made sense. There's no way they didn't design the stick controls with this surfboard peripheral in mind. I think that the surfboard is pretty cool, but it is gimmicky, and I feel like the gimmick kinda hurt the whole control scheme. I didn't have one of these bad boys, so in the spirit of the punk rock attitude of Surfing H3O's soundtrack, I DIY'd it. Yeah, punk rock. I love punk music. It's one of my favorite genres, so the assortment of music in this game really kept me entertained. The soundtrack is filled with pop punk, with a little bit of ska punk mixed in there as well. It's all very energetic and upbeat. I particularly liked Boy Toy Days and I Want My Hat Back by Digger. The hat song being particularly funny to me because the whole time he's just pleading for his hat back. I spent a lot of time idling at the end of the round screen just listening to it. For anyone wondering, fear not, I reached out to Digger and they confirmed that they did get their hat back. The only real gripes I have are that I wish the music was a tad louder during the stages. It's kinda hard to hear over the sound of the water, and the track on the main menu is really short and the loop is really bad on it. The main menu is probably the easiest one to idle in, so it probably deserves a little bit more care. The voice acting, what little of it there is
Come on, big boy. I'm your woman.
Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Ugh. All 10 of the VAs on this game never voice acted in a game before. Most of them never would go on to voice act again. Some of them were people who had other jobs in the office. Granted, a few of these guys went on to voice GTA pedestrians because, well, Rockstar, but for the majority this was their only voice acting credit in gaming. I'm gonna be honest here, there's really not that many surfing games out there. Surfing is niche within sports and it's even more niche within video games. There's not really much for Rockstar to gain by going all out on the voice acting. I can't really fault them for what they did. Although I would have liked it more if they had just got their announcer to mention pickups and just omit character voice acting altogether. It's not like I really need to feel connected to the characters, they're not based on real people and there's no real story or premise. Design-wise, I dig the characters. I really like some of the goofier alien surfers. The Turtle Man was my favorite. You start out with 5 characters and unlock a few with each new difficulty's completion. It kinda sucks that each time you unlock a batch of characters, there's always a clear best of the lot. Like when you unlock your first batch, you see Tyrone here has... Oh wait, I guess I should explain the stats. Speed determines how fast you gain speed when moving away from a wave, balance dictates how tightly you can turn, and trick determines how much wiggle room you get when landing tricks. Anyway, it's not as apparent in the first batch because Laura and Tyrone have the same stat line, but after this it gets to the point where each new batch of characters has a single character that just has completely balanced stats that are higher than everyone else's. Also, I just found this a little bit funny, but they just took a tiny bit of Tyrone's melanin away in the character select screen. Kinda baffling. Surfing will always be an anomaly to me. Up here in Pennsylvania, we ain't got nothing but rivers and cricks. Anytime I get the chance to vicariously experience something through video games, it always interests me. Surfing H3O scratches that itch. As I said, there's not really a lot of surfing games out there. Since it's an arcadey title, if you're into self-improvement and stuff, the progression is fine for that. You'll have to learn the game and get pretty good at it to defeat the higher difficulties. The music is pretty fun to listen to, but the sound design leaves a little bit to be desired. The gameplay is alright. I can't say that I hate it. I never specifically wanted to stop playing. I don't think I'd tell anyone to play the game. I mean, there's definitely got to be more entertaining sports games, and I know for a fact that there's more entertaining arcade games out this era. All in all, I'd say it's aight. I wouldn't pay $60 for it at launch. Definitely not. I mean, that's ludicrous. But, you know, if you need to get your surfing chops in, then, you know, whatever. I mean, it's there. I'm not going to stop you. Maybe I will. I don't know. Thanks for watching. Ha ha ha.